What's up, Otakus? It's your tour guide here. Oh, we're going live again. You know, I've got a series of top 10 lists that I want to get through by the end of the year, and seeing how we have about um, around 5 weeks left to the year. I thought, be good to hop on here on a Tuesday and go through really a pretty major list of um, this is a significant one because we're going to count down the top 20 comic book heroes, um, my personal favorite heroes in comic books. And we're going to keep it very egalitarian by doing it uh, 10 women heroes and 10 men heroes. So, a good balanced uh, list here to round out our top 20. So 10 women, 10 men in terms of heroes. And we're going to go ladies first, girl, boy, all the way down to number one. So we'll start here with number 20. And we have Black Widow at number 20. And this is a book signed by George Perez. And this one actually I want to get graded. I actually want to get this graded because um, not only is it a beautiful copy, black cover, I mean, it's a very high grade. It also has George Perez's signature. So I just think this is very slab worthy. Um, I don't advocate slabbing books, but when it's a book like this, where it's just very high grade, and again, we have um, such a perfect signature and placement and everything. I mean, this book, yeah, I mean, someday we'll send it into CBCS and get it graded. It's just beautiful condition. It wasn't, I mean, there's like one spine tick there, but outside of that, this wouldn't come back a 9.8, but definitely like 9.4. It's just it just presents so well. You got one spine tick there, right here, and you can see it right there. Outside of that, not much wrong with the book. So really, really, yeah, just slab worthy, like I said. Um, I wasn't always a fan of Black Widow, but I am a big Scarlett Johansson fan. I've always been a fan of hers ever since, I saw um, Lost in Translation, Sophia Coppola film, where she starred with Bill Murray, and she oh my God, her performance in that movie was just really. I mean, they're both of their performances. That the movie was just one of those like, um, I don't know. I guess you just kind of have to be in that situation where you know, I think every individual, if you live life long enough, you enter a period where you just, you know, you're conflicted, you feel lost, and sometimes you need to be kind of thrown off course to find your way back. And so I think, that movie really beautifully captures that frame of mind. And again, that Anyway, that it endeared me to Scarlett Johansson, and in the subsequent role she's taken, she's always just mesmerized me on the screen. And so when she was cast to play Natasha in the Avengers movies, I was like all in. I was like, yes, sign me up. She looked incredible. Um, you know, they got the look right, and so, and I'm glad they, she just got to be kind of herself in playing the character, which I loved. So wasn't like a complete departure from Scarlett. It was Scarlett, so just Scarlett kind of playing this iconic character. So there you go. Number 20, we're going with Black Widow. All right, number 19 on the list, we're going with Punisher. Um, the series, the Born Again Daredevil series is coming, and Punisher is going to be in that series. And I just feel like, Punisher is just one of those characters um, that emerged during I mean, I know he got his first appearance in the Bronze Age, but he emerged in popularity during my collecting era. And yeah, I think, he's just one of those characters where he's not like this, um, he's a character with a lot of issues, and then it's also very violent. He lives, he um, really punishes like his enemies, right? People um, kind of that deserve judgment. And anyway, there's a lot of great covers I could have. And this list isn't necessarily the best covers of each character, because we're going to kind of go again. We're going to proceed into more top 10 lists, and I do have like a top 10 Superman list coming up, a top 10 Batman coming up, top 10 Spider-Man coming up, and a top 10 X-Men and all and whatnot. So we've got a bunch of more lists coming. So I'm kind of reserving sort of the top books for those lists as well. But Punisher, this is kind of where we address Punisher, and then um, we don't really pick back up at with Punisher. But I always love this cover. This is probably my favorite cover in the run of the World Journal, and it's Jim Lee's finale on the run. And yeah, you just got Punisher on a jet ski with a message, "Kiss that baby goodbye." So the jet ski's not surviving this issue. But yeah, he's riding off into the sunset, and it's just, I don't know. You can definitely feel Jim's. You know, I think he felt indebted to the character, and he just wanted to give a nice send off, um, having worked, you know, uh, kind of gain notoriety during this run. So yeah, that Punisher War Journal number 19. Uh, Now we got number 18 on the list, Jean Grey. Yeah, who doesn't love Jean Grey? She's the you know, the first X-Men class, she's a very powerful mutant. Um, all the X-Men kind of want to, gain her attention and get be in her good charms, but Scott's the lucky guy who um, eventually wins her over. And well, yeah, I mean, they help each other out. They get they're kind of drawn to each other, uh, you know. And anyway, it's good. It's she's a great character. This is where she meets her meets her fate. She doesn't doesn't make it in that episode. Um, we've got number 17 on the list here, and that is Spawn. Yeah, Spawn is actually one of my favorite characters, and it's more of like I think nostalgia than anything because when Spawn first came out, it was just such a hyped book. It was just a popular book. Todd's art on it was great. The story was really compelling. Um, it kind of built this unique universe and world. The Spawn kind of verse. Um, all these characters from hell, essentially, right? So uh, it was again a very sort of innovative story at the time, and definitely had a lot of action and dramatic. Because he's Al Simmons is somebody who's dealing with this new reality. It kind of felt like Spider-Man in a way, but a lot more intense. And of course, Spawn is sort of this tortured kind of character. Um, but he's also, choosing to um, do good deeds. Fight the evil forces, as you might say. So that's really was pretty cool. And that cape, his cape is just yeah. The cape thing was kind of the cherry on top, right? It's like you have this great character, but then you have this like kind of living cape that and the cape and the chains that kind of protect him and it like comes alive. I just always was like, that is so cool. That's what made this character pretty unique and pretty badass. All right. Yeah, most of these favorite characters are from my collecting era, my period. So um, no surprises really. Number 16, uh, Fairchild from Gen 13. Yeah, and I think this is J. Scott Campbell's first cover on the series of Fairchild, number one issue. And of course, this, for those of you, this is early, J. Scott Campbell. Um, we mentioned that his first work in comic books was the Homage Studios swimsuit edition, where he did a couple pinups in that. And I think that's a big book. It should be a trending book. It's, I'm sure, a book a lot of people want to go pick up, especially since there are a lot of J. Scott Campbell fans. But yeah, this is early work, so it's obviously not as polished as his more distinctive style now. Um, but I think there was a little bit of like finding him, his footing and finding his, um, again, finding his style, uh, his definitive sort of um, look for, his characters. This definitely feels kind of a little bit, like he's, trying too hard, and it's just, he's trying to make everything nice and perfect, and again, things are just like, he's you can tell he's still got there's a lot of improvement from this particular point in time to even just a few years down the road. So yeah, but it is a nice cover and significant cover here of the Fairchild character there. She's very well endowed. We know Fairchild is well endowed. All right. So what was that, 16? We're on to 15 now. Um, along the likes of Fairchild, this is another character. One of my favorites. He's just one of those like the design of this character is just really really cool. It's kind of like if you had Deadpool, um, but his like mask kind of got like torn, and it just hung on his face like a handkerchief and all that. It's pretty much a grifter, right? And yeah, it's like Deadpool kind of um, in more like of a civilian type costume, but with that handkerchief mask. Um, but he's a sharpshooter, and he's really the only one in this group of wildcats who's not really he doesn't have a power associated with his abilities. Um, but yeah, this is just an incredible cover by Jim Lee. And I remember when this thing came out, it was just like you had to get it right. It was just like the cover was just too good. You just could not get it. It's just one of those like cover like you have to have that. All right, we're already down to number 14 on the list, and that is Gwen Stacy as Spider Gwen. So I've always been a fan of Gwen Stacy um, during the Romita Stanley uh, run. Um, and when she was reintroduced as a Spider Verse character, I just thought, wow, that's I wasn't sure how to like kind of take it, but in the context of this, the Miles Morales like story, I thought it worked really well, and I just love. Again, we haven't really seen her in live action or anything, but the way they make her movements so graceful in the animation is what really I think she's this spider person, but she's a lot. I mean, she's like a dancer, right? The way she's able to use her power and movements and stuff. So it was just a really cool um, take that was a little different in terms of how people would, manifest their spider powers. And yeah, this is her very first appearance. Hey, Miss So, what's up? Thanks for joining. Yeah, so Spider Gwen's definitely a favorite, and she's just a recent favorite. She's not a favorite from like back in the day. Actually, like let me take that back. So there's, I kind of in my mind there is a separation between the Gwen Stacy who was, Peter Parker's first love, and well, no, he wasn't the first love. Well, that's debatable, I guess. He definitely was not like the first love interest, but or I should say, Gwen Stacy was not Peter's first love interest, but she definitely was like the biggest prior to Mary Jane, right? She was like the biggest love interest and kind of the college, girlfriend, and um, they were definitely like, heading in that direction, right? Like being being tied to one another. Um, yeah, so when she, like tragically died, that just like it was just like if you didn't like the character, that moment would not resonate with you. And I think they did a great job making her just this like all American girl, just kind of like the perfect girlfriend kind of thing. And but that's kind of like a one dimensional type character. And then when they introduced her as Spider Gwen, it added a whole other like element where she wasn't like the girlfriend; she was like her own um, strong character. So yeah, I like both characters, but think you know what I don't think. Gwen Stacy would have made this list because we're talking comic book heroes, right? She wouldn't have made this list just as the girlfriend. So we're counting her as Spider Gwen versus Gwen Stacy. I hope that made sense. Um, so that was 14. This is 13. Number 13 is Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil. Um, I was introduced to Daredevil. I forget the issue number, but it was a Frank. I think one of Frank Miller's early books on the run, and it was sort of just this. There wasn't a lot of action in it. It was just sort of this like very subdued story. But what I distinctly remember is there's a guy at the end of the dock, and he's holding a gun, and he shoots at Daredevil, and Daredevil uses his billy club or billy stick to knock away the bullet and subdue the assailant. And then off in the distance, observing all this, you don't know, but there's somebody like observing all this and who's aware of, you know, Daredevil's like powers, and it ends up being Bullseye. So it's. I just remember that was like my first kind of introduction to Daredevil as a character, and it was like what an introduction it was because he has these heightened senses, and he can really like see see better than most people. Even though he's blind, he can see and sense more and be attuned, and then he's also very agile, acrobatic, and kind of trained. And then they build out that story where he's like, Stick is introduced, and Stick trains him and harnesses his powers and ability. Anyway, this is just a fabulous a cover by Frank Miller. And I picked this up this summer, and when I first I knew the cover was out there. I knew it, but then it ended up trending on a list, and then I just I had to have it. I was like, man, that I still don't have that one in my my collection, and I just kind of made it a point to find this book and just get it, no matter what grade it was in. And fortunately, we got it in a very high grade copy here. So yeah, beautiful yellow cover. Yeah, this is like near mid plus probably. Just very. I think they pressed it and everything. Just looks super super crispy. All right, so that was what 13. We're now on to 12, and this character specifically, I like this design of the character and this sort of era of the character. Um, and I specifically chose this book because I loved this particular artist on the X-Men run. This is where I kind of I was reading the classic X-Men as well. Classic X-Men was kind of taking you back in time, kind of almost like a decade before when Claremont and Byrne were working. A lot of the Dave Cockrum and Claremont books as well, um, which was great. You kind of got the history, but what was going on here in the present day run of the book was also really really cool. And there's this kind of relationship that builds between Forge and Storm, and Storm takes on this like Mohican Mohawk look, and that is the look that I knew what Storm looked like previously as well too. But in terms of her development in the X-Men as a character, it's this because she ends up being the leader of the X-Men. There's a point where she's like powerless. She's just not. Um, doesn't have her, weather, control abilities and all that. And that just made her, uh, sort of a character that you wanted to kind of see how she kind of transitions and deals with all these issues, right? So this is Mark Silvestri's first work on the book. It's a cover, and man, that is Mohawk Storm right there for you. So yeah, we love Storm, Mohawk or not, but we prefer the Mohawk Storm. Um, that that era of the character. She's great in other, you know, I guess ideations as well. We love Jim's representation of her. Um, I think that's kind of the her '90s look is kind of what most people kind of, or her classic look with the. I don't know. I think the burn cockrum version of the character. It's a good costume, and I love the white hair and all that. But I don't know. She just doesn't. That character doesn't resonate with me as well as the later iterations. And so again, I prefer the Mohawk Storm or the '90s Storm. The classic Storm is great too. Nothing wrong with that. She's always has been a very powerful and you know one of the core X-Men characters, um, and remains so, right? Like Storm is just one of those core X-Men characters and will always be. All right, so that was what? That was 12. We're now on to 11. Now, 11, we said, a top 20 comic book heroes, and 11 just feels a little like it's a cheat. Um, but I have to include because he's just one of my favorite like characters from my childhood of all time, and that is Optimus Prime, leader of the Autobots. And yeah, he's just you know the voice actor that played Peter Cullen. He just that with the voice and the voice acting for the character. Um, it just I think made him so relate. I didn't even want to say like kids can't relate to like some kind of military leader, but when you hear like Optimus Prime kind of give the command roll out or something like that, you just like right Autobots roll out, right? It's like you as a little kid would just be like yes sir, right? Like he just had such a commanding like um like father figure type role to this robot character. It was just, yeah, it was such a human touch to a robot character that made it like these weren't just robots; they were like organisms, right? They were metallic organisms, sentient beings, and yeah, if you watched it as a kid, you loved the series, you bought the toys, and these robots were like pretty much your life, like after school or like on the weekends, whenever the cartoons came on, you were definitely um, into it. And so, obviously, as a kid, you're not. I didn't get into comic books until much later, and it was always about the cartoons or the movies and the toys. But yeah, even now as an adult, I got this book um, just because it's the first appearance and it's a big book. So this is another one we picked up in the summer. put the grader on 8.5. Just beautiful copy, newsstand copy here. Canadian variant newsstand copy, I might add. So love that pickup. All right, so that was what? Was that 11? Yeah, that was 11. So now we're on to the top 10 here. And at number 10, we have She Hulk. And I could have picked, the She Hulk cover from a lot of different, her series or just a lot of different variant covers that have been done of her character. But I decided to go with this Action One homage um, to show off because um, I really like She-Hulk and the Fantastic. I'm just a big Byrne fan, and then when Byrne put her in this like pretty much this like aerobics outfit, it's like an aerobics outfit with the four on there. The Fantastic Four. So she replaces Beg Grimm as the fourth member of the Fantastic Four in this great Byrne run. Um, I think it's Burns. Given time, it's going to, I think cement more of Burns' legacy because he just poured his heart and soul into this run, and there's so much goodness um, to really enjoy. It's spread over a large portion. He works with different writers. He writes it, and I mean, there's just like, um, yeah, he's just um, so well integrated into the series and what happens. And again, this this uh, event where She-Hulk is part of the Fantastic Four just can't beat that. Can't beat that. So um, yeah, She-Hulk is number 10, and number 9 we've got. I mean, what more can you say about this iconic classic character? I think he's probably the favorite um, in any collector's top 10 list. I mean, if you're assuming they're like a comic book fan, um, he's just so much part of. He's just a big figure in the not only the comic book um, universe. He just really sort of in larger sort of mass appeal popular culture. He's just well known, right? There's just been so many recent movies made of this character. Um, so yeah, I mean, iconic Spider-Man, and I again picked this Burn um, negative space cover. Just one of my favorite images here, direct edition. Yeah, and I specifically chose the black suit Spider-Man because I don't know if anyone else outside of my generation can appreciate. And I'm specifically talking my generation because he was introduced in the black suit when I was in like what fourth or fifth grade, right? And he eventually got extracted from the suit, and and then they developed the Venom. That was like high school, college. College is when Venom really like came to the fore as a character. So, I went from grade school to like college during this whole black suit period. And, you know, I was down with black suit Spider-Man. I was just like, that is way cooler looking than his classic suit. And I still think that to this day. I think the black suit's way cooler looking. As great as an iconic and classic as the red suit is, um, you know, if we're just going by suits, like um, I'm not going to say that like the red suit is, far inferior, but it's just a slight, like, if you were to give me a choice or a preference, I would prefer the black. But they're both great designs. They're both iconic, so I wouldn't want to have to like have one over, or like um, take precedent over the other, but just kind of keep both in the fray or in the mix. And that's what I think I like about the Miles Morales design. You kind of get that black suit um, to a certain degree. It's not the complete black suit, but it's like an amalgam of the classic design with a black suit. Um, and it kind of gives you both, like, I guess, worlds if you're a big fan of the black suit. So yeah, um, that was number what, 9? Yeah, number 9. Um, Number 8. This is a character. Yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. It's just like, I think I touched upon Grifter. I think, in terms of, like, it's weird to say that Zealot is uh, on this list. She's higher, but I think overall, if you were to for me to compare Wildcats characters, I think Grifter is my favorite, and then second would be Zealot. But that's debatable. Like, if you catch me on a bad day, I might say no, it's Zealot over Grifter. Um, but yeah, I mean, in terms of like a battle, Zealot is winning, 100% of the time. But um, so I just wanted to, this is a Wildstorm swimsuit special, and there's a Jim Lee cover here of the ladies, but it's the back cover, man. It's the back cover that, yeah, this is my favorite Zealot cover. Just sitting like on this surfboard with her, her sword there. Just absolutely stunning. Stunning in that bathing suit. The sun, near sunset, right? Whew. That is good stuff right there. Now, yeah, she just, I think when Jim Lee introduced the Wildcats, there were some themes that they, probably wanted to promote among the geeks. They knew their geek audience well, and one of the things was, hey, we're going to add sexy characters to this team, and all the lady characters, and really all the, whether it's the Wildcats or some other image team, there's a good amount of like um, you know physical, yeah, I don't even know what the word would be. It would be just like optimum physique involved in all the characters, and so they were selling to the geeks. A lot of the geeks, they're selling sex appeal for sure, um, and that is why Zealot uh, is a favorite of ours. She was, again, it's like there's an archetype there with the sexy and deadly, and then they brought that to, definitely, to the from the Marvel title to the Wildcats titles. All right, so I'm losing count here. That was, I think, uh, top, was that 8? Yeah, that was 8. So this is 7, 6, 5, 4. Yeah, this is 7. Um, Along the lines of what I mentioned with the Transformers, uh, there was another series. Actually, I think GI Joe. I'm not talking about um, obviously GI Joe as a toy and cultural, I guess, reference came way before. I think in the '60s when they introduced these like 12-inch sized like action, army action figures, um, which were, that's great. It's fun. It just wasn't my generation. But when the GI Joe was introduced in my generation, it was Larry Hama, it was the cartoons, it was the comics, it was the toys. So Larry Hama built this story in the comics, and that story spilled over into the cartoons. A lot of the characters were kind of jumping from comic to cartoon, rather, as kind of like part of the same um, kind of marketing scheme, right? They wanted there's a big interest, so you had like the younger kids just wanting to watch cartoons and buy the toys, and then you had sort of the older kids who were reading the comics. I was kind of stuck in the middle because I was watching the cartoons, and then I got into the comics as I got older. And I obviously played with all the toys and stuff. So during that whole, you know, growing up period, um, Snake Eyes has always remained the GI Joe character, right? Yeah, he couldn't talk. You didn't know what he looked like. All you knew is he got into an accident where, uh, box of or explosives just blew his part of his face off, right? And he's a Vietnam War vet and skilled combatant, hand to hand combatant, weapons. I mean, just he's the perfect soldier, right? With ninjutsu on top. And yeah, he just was just one of the coolest characters. And the fact that they, brought in Storm Shadow, um, as they have this history as brother, soldiers in arms, blood brothers, kind of like it was just like so well written and so compelling, um, just off the chart, like comic book, you know, characterization and writing at its best. And again, we have this amazing Michael Zeck cover on the 25th border issue. I got it signed and sketched by Larry Hama, so this is a flex book for real. But yeah, and this is not Snake Eyes' first classic design. This is when they redesigned him with the wolf, timber. They gave him an Uzi and like two swords, and like you just had this like awesome ninja design with the visor and everything. It was just badass. So this is like, yes, that just captures my childhood there in a nutshell. All right, I'm gonna have to count these out here. I got 1, 2, 3, 6. So I got 6. This is number 6 on the list, and I gotta say, like I don't have. I think my first introduction to Supergirl was the Helen Slater movie, and yeah, the movie was was not good, but Helen Slater's performance in the movie though was I feel like she did a lot of things for that character, even though the movie wasn't it didn't have the budget of Superman, it didn't have the even like the special effects quality of Superman. You had some great you had a great cast kind of, but The writing wasn't great. It was just kind of like this um, it was just basically being marketed on the heels of the popularity of Superman. So Superman was super popular, so they said, "Why don't we just make a Supergirl movie, um, and see how many people watch it?" And that was one of those like, "I'll watch it." I think I watched it on video though. But yeah, I mean, it was, I still like the character. I thought the character was good. Just the movie was not as good. Um, and yeah, Helen Slater was just so cute in that movie. She's just like, she's this beautiful superhero character, blonde haired, blue eyed, you know, um, really just kind of a um, girl next door kind of like take on, you know, really what they were, what the character actually is, right? She's just this sort of girl next door who has the powers of Superman as well. And so, yeah, I actually got this book over the summer, and I just think it's just this is great Neil Adams cover here, and just kind of busting out of the book, and it's all these like reprinted kind of stories from the Silver Age, um, which is pretty cool. So yeah, and she's got the classic um, design here, the blue dress, the red cape, and the red boots. So yeah, we love Supergirl. We love Supergirl, and so again, growing up, I didn't read too many Supergirl comics. Yeah, it was just the movie. But then, as I got older and got into comics, um, we started reading more Supergirl comics, and now, like, yeah, I mean, stuff like this is what I'd love to pick up more of. Um, her appearances in Action Comics and Superman, um, in the Superman family. Just the more I can get sort of these like classic issues from the Silver Age of her, the better. Like, we picked up this one too, the other 80 giant size, just all these collection of Supergirl stories. Her first romance, her first meeting with Superboy. She meets the Legion of Superheroes. That's a big one where, yeah, I think, which becomes like this sort of honorary member of the Legion. Anyway, she's just, uh, she's a favorite in any era, I think. Right. Like I was really young when I watched Supergirl 2, we were like all young. Um, so I just feel like it wasn't, we were being critical, right? There was enough action, there's enough there to like enjoy as a kid. You're right. Like, you're not going to, I don't think I came out of that movie being like, oh man, that was the worst piece of cinema I've ever seen. No, it was kind of like, I just went out of there thinking like, well, Supergirl's fine, but she's not Superman. And, that Superman movie just, for a 6-year old was just like, it was, again, I was just so impacted by Superman. Supergirl, not so much. All right, so let's see here. We got number. We got 4 books here left. So we did Supergirl. Yeah, okay. So this is number 5. Yeah, number 5. I mean, this is another iconic character. Everybody's one of, I would say, the godfathers of comic book characters. And we're talking about Wolverine, Logan. Logan is another character that, like, he's been through so much, but when you look at his like core, like origin and everything, he's this like Canadian sort of super agent who joins the X-Men because, he's a mutant and he believes in like kind of Xavier's call to action. And he's got this sketchy checkered past, and he doesn't remember how he came to be or and all this, and he's kind of piecing it together. But anyway, he like goes through the ringer and becoming Weapon X and all that. So um, just a lot of this character was so popular, and he just went through so many different like story arcs and iterations, and he's just constantly in your face. Like you could not. You're reading X-Men, you're reading Wolverine, you're reading all the X titles where he's popping in as one of the main characters. So he's always been just at the forefront of any Marvel story, whether it's Spider-Man, whether it's Punisher. He's just all over the place. Wolverine will make that cameo, um, and again, he proved to be the winning piece in resurrecting the. I don't want to say resurrecting, but kind of taking the Deadpool franchise to new heights. Different. I think they played well off each other. Hugh Jackman and Ryan. Um, I'm forgetting his name. Ryan, the pretty boy. Um, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to this character, not necessarily Hugh Jackman, not necessarily Ryan Reynolds. Thank you. So, not necessarily Ryan Reynolds. Um, it's this character that people love. So that is number 5. We're down to our top 4 comic book characters, and I think number 4 is going to surprise a lot of people. And I kind of intimated this during the last cover battle that a lot of I've mentioned many a time on the channel that Psylocke is my favorite female character. Um, but that isn't necessarily the case, and I do kind of want to like set the record straight. But here we are. We're at number 4, and number 4 on the list is Psylocke. Um, this character was introduced to me through Jim Lee, and in Uncanny X-Men was it 250? I want to say 256, and again, one of Jim's early works on the Uncanny X-Men title. And it's really what kind of um, established him as the person who was going to work on X-Men after Silvestri's great run. And there were a lot of artists kind of like working intermittently, just kind of they were testing the waters to see which artists. You had a lot of Andy Kubert, you had a lot of Will Spertasio, you had a good little mix of people there at Marvel, kind of auditioning for sort of a long run on this. They're one of the top selling titles at Marvel, and Jim eventually went out. And again, that Uncanny X-Men 256 went a long way, and a lot of I think the appeal of the what you would call the it's the Mandarin. What do they call it? That um, forget the run. It's a 3-issue run. It was a short run, but they introduced Psylocke. They reintroduced Psylocke from this sort of like, oh, I can't do anything. Please rescue me. She's always having to be rescued when they go on missions and stuff. And Jim basically says no. She's gonna be sexy and deadly. And this is Marvel Age. This is Jim's first cover appearance in comics. He's chained to the what do you call it, the drafting table, and he's just dreamt up this new design for Psylocke. And boy, this it was good timing. Yeah, I think it was well into my, it was, I did, I was well into my puberty. Sounds weird to say. I was pretty when she was introduced, so kind of was good, I guess. Um, but yeah, just iconic uh, character design. And again, she's a character that hasn't. She's kind of one dimensional. I don't like how, you go back and read these issues. She's obviously just the kind of the character that is there to kind of drop jaws, right? Um, but there wasn't a lot of substance to her, right? She was just kind of the background. Oh, I'll come in and do a cool like knife move or finishing like kill move and like karate kicks and ninjutsu chops and all that. And it was just kind of like whatever, she's there. She's not really a central character. But that's a lot of that has changed now. I feel like now where the character is, um, this design hasn't changed much in so many years. But I think this will always be the classic design. I don't think anybody wants to see a change to this. But you're kind of getting that now. You're kind of getting artists to give her different looks and different, um, give her more, I think, depth and not ever so kind of cold and robotic and all that. So yeah, it is what it is. She is not going anywhere. She's here to stay. All right, we're down to my last top three comic book characters. I should say comic book heroes. And this goes without saying. Um, I. It's interesting that these last three are here in this sequence because when I was looking at like Wolverine and this character, I was thinking I was kind of debating like which one should I go with. And then I realized, you know what, like as great as Wolverine is, it's just incomparable to the significance of this character, especially during the Tim Burton Batman era where Batman was just this like cultural phenomena again. It had gone from the Adam West, Burt Ward, Batman and Robin running around in tights and the dad bod, to sort of more dark, a more realistic sort of portrayal of the character as a tragic character, right? Um, and so Batman is number three, and there's a lot of great Batman covers, but I decided to go with this incredible um, cover by this is Andy Cooper, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, I want to say it's Andy Cooper, not Adam Cooper. This is Andy Cooper, and it's just beautiful. It's a work of art. I mean, it really is just one of those like negative space character covers. Um, but look at just the silhouette of the cape, um, the pose. This is drawn also in like that Frank Miller Dark Knight Returns style. So um, Kubert's just paying such deep homage to Frank Miller's Dark Knight series here. This is again, I think the third and final conclusion of the Dark Knight series, Master Race, which I didn't hate. I also didn't. I just felt like I don't know. Reading Dark Knight Returns as a kid, it's an institution. So in terms of the um, matching the hype in my mind, Master Race kind of delivered. Didn't was a little bit disappointing as well, but it is what it is. But again, Batman #3, such I mean, yeah, just the history of the character, all the different iterations. I mean, what more can you say? You're talking almost like 80 years uh, that a character has been around. And that is the reason why, like, if I had to choose between my next character and Psylocke, I have to go with this character, and that is Wonder Woman. Um, what's interesting is my introduction to Wonder Woman, like my introduction to Superman, was not through comic books. It was through, uh, you know, uh, the visual medium. Um, Superman, the movies, and Wonder Woman, the great classic television show with Linda Carter. Now, I watched Linda Carter as a little kid, and I love that show. But it was not, you're a kid and you just see Linda. Linda's this beautiful lady playing Wonder Woman, but you're not like sexually attracted to her or like you just see her playing Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman's this like hero, and she's doing all these great things, and she's powerful, she's strong, she flies around in this invisible jet, and yeah, that series was just great because it just took the comic book content pretty much like this is who the character is, and didn't you know it pretty much stayed consistent with how she was um, portrayed in the classic comic books as well. So yeah, and it wasn't until it wasn't until like puberty where you go back and watch Linda Carter, and then you're just like, whoa, this is a different this is a different show. Hey, what's going on here? Um, and yeah, she's you know Linda Carter's an she's a beautiful woman. I mean, just talking about like of all the beautiful people that have walked this earth, she has to be like in the top like five uh, beautiful women of all time. I mean, I would imagine, right? That you're just so um, physically gifted, right? Like she's like 80s now, and she's like still hot. Like it's weird to say that, but I mean, I mean, like she's like still so like naturally and genetically like beautiful. Um, she's really just aged like fine wine. And so, she obviously just, that's another, I think we've all grown up watching that show. We've all grown up reading comic books with her very central to all the DC characters, whether it's Justice League, whether it's her own title, whether it's crossovers and whatnot. And this cover on Wonder Woman 49 just beautifully captures the essence of her character there. So yes, Psylocke is not my favorite female character. When push comes to shove, it is Diana. Um, I love this the classic costume from the original series, from the all the iterations of Wonder Woman, from classic to this period point in time. Uh, we love it. And this, yeah, this is one of my favorite works, comic book covers in the collection. Look back and wonder the story so far. Classic George Perez work. All right, and now we've finally reached. We've all had a crush on Wonder Woman, um, and I think Linda Carter is a big reason people had crushes on her um, in the 70s and 80s. But she also, Gal Gadot did a great job portraying her, um, and I'm just really curious to see who's going to play Wonder Woman in the DCEU, because that will be, again, that's just going to cement her again as a core character when we get her, series of solo movies maybe, and whatever she ends up doing with uh, Batman and Superman. Hopefully, there's a Trinity movie, but she has to definitely be an integral part of whatever they launch. I just got to show you the cover again. It's just such a. So I was talking about Wonder Woman. That is just, God, it's so fabulous. All right, we're down to number one, number uno. Again, this is no surprise. Kind of hinted at it throughout talking about this list. But number one, and we're going to do a deeper dive. We're going to do a deeper dive into Wonder Woman. I'm going to go top 10 Wonder Woman books. I'm going to go top 10 Batman books. And we're definitely going top 10 Superman books. And this will not be on the top 10 list, but it definitely is one of my top covers of Superman. But I just feel like, for this list, we needed to kind of have an impactful number one uh, book. And this is, again, Superman's my favorite character. And I just love this sort of Superman at dusk kind of, it's care to step by his side, Zod kind of like pose there. Um, Beautiful Alex Ross cover. Absolutely one of our favorites. And yeah, um, I've gone over many times why Superman's my favorite character, but I'll just do another brief kind of synopsis. Um, being essentially an immigrant at a very young age to this country, even though I naturalized and became a U.S. citizen, I um, came with my parents at the age of 2 to this country. So America's all I've ever known in terms of a home. And growing up, um, you know, you watch cartoons and stuff, and Superman. You definitely know Superman. He's like, I wasn't reading comics, but you were just seeing like him in like toys, like kind of like cartoons. You're just seeing him here and there. Um, but again, in 1979, I was like, 5 years old. I went to the movie theater and watched uh, Christopher Reeve starring Superman. That's a long movie. You're talking like 2 hours in the theater, but I didn't. You know how like most kids that age would just like be bored and like kind of like distracted and like, why am I here? Maybe sitting on the floor doing, just like kind of just no. That movie from like the start, which was the beginning was a little confusing for a kid. It's like this isn't Superman. What's going on? When is he coming? And it was kind of like you didn't get it. But then the rocket takes off, the music starts, and you just I was as a kid I was just so absorbed into the story. And then Superman doesn't even come out until like the middle of the film, but man, is it worth the wait? And all the little great scenes with Christopher Reeve flying around, doing all the good deeds, and it was an incredible film. It had such an impact on me at a very young age. Came out of that movie like flying around and wrapping a towel or getting the cape, getting the underoos. You wanted to get the underoos after that movie, and yeah, it was yeah, very very memorable, and it's always stuck with me, and he's always remained my favorite. Because there hasn't been like I mentioned like Snake Eyes, I mentioned like Optimus Prime, I mentioned all these other great characters like Batman, but no one's ever supplanted the idea that Superman represents. And Superman is an immigrant who comes and defends the United States, defends Earth. Um, there's a lot of, I guess you could say, kind of biblical kind of references. The last son or the only son from a distant um, world, a celestial world, celestial being, son of a celestial, I guess, alien. Um, you kind of got to connect the dots and make the, dot dot the i's and cross the t's. But there's definitely like those kinds of symbolic references to this kind of this all powerful being from who was sent here, to protect us. And um, it's just again his popularity throughout history. I think a lot of channels have talked about like how today's generation just doesn't care about Superman. And I really think it's because there's just a lack of like content that mm, you know I would say whatever content is out there, it's not they haven't reinvented him or proposed him in a new way that's different from what we've seen in the past. So, and ultimately, there's no way to do that, right? You can't take an 80-year character and then suddenly give him like a more brooding back. I know they did that with the Henry Cavill Superman. They kind of, they tried to make it a little bit more dark and add a little more substance to that character. But it's a formula. So either you like the formula and want to see more of it, or you don't. And it's a generational thing. I think I came in with that Reeve rendition of Superman and all the history behind who that character is. Getting that kind of exposure and cementing who that character is at a very young age and not having that compromised as you grow up is big. But you talk to like kids today, or I guess what is it, the millennials who grew up watching Iron Man and the MCU movies. obviously that's going to be their quote unquote like Superman, right? And you're not going to, no matter what you introduce to that generation, it's hard to supplant. Um, I'm just thinking like Iron Man would never, you couldn't bring a version to me that would ever supplant Superman. You can make the same argument, I guess, for people who grew up watching Iron Man, or people who grew up watching Batman, or people who grew up watching what was most recent. I don't know what's like Deadpool, right? I'm sure there's a generation of like teenagers and college kids that watch Deadpool, and that's their jam. Um, but when all is said and done, I think you need to, and I think this is where I think Gunn's mission with this first Superman movie is exactly that. It's like, let's make Superman fun, cool, bring that, Reeve-esque kind of character. Because I've heard him talk how he wants to present Superman. It's like he wants to capture that Reeve essence of the character. Like he enjoys being the superhero, right? He enjoys like, and that was Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve brought so much confidence and bravado to the character. Like um, he just was this like Boy Scout, but at the same time a little bit, he kind of a mischievous Boy Scout. Had a little, he wasn't dull. Obviously, also just good looking. Everything Christopher Reeve was athletic, good looking, smart, talented. Just brought that to the fore. So, you know, obviously the casting is important in this one, and hopefully they cast the right guy. But he looks great. I think he'll make a great Superman. He has, he has definitely those shades of Reeve, and so I'm really gonna bask in the return of Superman, just and everybody kind of like, hopefully my son and I can go watch the movie together this summer because he's going to be close to 6, which is when I watched. This is ironic, but which is right around the age I first watched Superman the movies. And I know when I take him to watch this movie, and if Gunn makes it a really sort of like, PG, family friendly summer flick. Um, Hopefully it's PG, but I feel like Leo's ready to kind of watch it and just be a Superman fan, like I was from a very young impressionable age. And hopefully that'll get him into my comic books. If that's the case, then I've succeeded. But yeah, it was introduced in 1978. So I'm sorry, 78's winter. So 79, I would have been like 4 or 5 when it came out. Um, I think I saw it like that summer or that spring or summer, but I was like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. So very young, very impressionable. Saw it with my parents, and it was just like the best time of my life. Because it's like I think the first movie. I think my first 2 movies in the theater were like Superman and the Muppet movie, and I don't remember the Muppet movie all that well. But boy, do I remember Superman. And it's kind of like it just Muppet movie and the Superman. The, I I think I want to say Muppet movie was my first movie, and Superman was my second. And Muppet movie, as great as it was, it just didn't hit. It just didn't hit. I think you know. Again, I don't remember coming out of Muppet movie singing all the songs and like obviously my English was not great, so it's not like I understood either film to any degree. but I definitely like Superman. Like I didn't need to know the language to know what was going on. Like, you know, uh, Richard Donner does just a great storytelling through the images and the different, you know, landscapes that he creates on not only Krypton but um, Kansas and Metropolis, New York City, and so and then eventually those scenes in California where he's doing all the rescuing and stuff. And so it was just this. It had a very kind of like large, kind of massive scope to the film because of all the different locations and the different time periods. And, you went from baby Superman to like present day and all that. So it was really just really cool, memorable is the best way to put it. Whereas Muppet Movie, you had a bunch of Muppets, singing and dancing, like Miss Piggy and Kermit, um, you know, being romantic and all that. It was just weird. Like the Muppet Movie was weird to me. I think as a kid, I just didn't get it. It was fun, and I'm pretty sure I didn't hate it, but yeah, it didn't capture the imagination of 5-year-old me. So Star Wars. So Star Wars did come out, but I never saw Star Wars. I didn't get to see Star Wars until I think I was like 7, which was right around the time I watched Empire Strikes Back. Yeah, because when Strikes Back, I saw that in the theaters. So I kind of like watched Empire as my introduction to Star Wars. I already knew the toys from Star Wars because those were out by then. But then, yeah, my first foray into Star Wars was through Empire, and then I went back and watched Star Wars, and then of course, when Return of the Jedi came out, it was just like game over, right? Return of the Jedi was just like the cinematic event um, that summer, and it just carried over, right? It was just such a big movie. But yeah, Star Wars was another big one, but I didn't see it at a young age. I probably couldn't have seen it at a young age. I would imagine I would have gotten scared at some of the, you know, scenes because those scenes are pretty intense in Star Wars. The cantina scene and when they're trapped in that little like um, snake-like thing is coming out of the water and all the stuff. Yeah, just we were all very, very young when that movie came out. So if you were fortunate to see it as a very young kid and like not be scared of it and all that, that was cool. I just felt like my parents probably was like, no, Star Wars is not for him. I do recall having a nightmare about Greedo. I never watched the movie, but I, for some reason, I think saw on TV or whatever, I saw Greedo and had a nightmare about Greedo from that short, whatever visual uh, imprint that I saw as a kid. Not from the movie, but from like either a book or television or something. It was just a very early memory that I just remember being scared of Greedo for some reason. Um, but yeah, that is that is what it was. All right, well, that is my top 20 superhero, or I shouldn't say superhero, comic book hero characters. And, hope you guys enjoyed that list. Next, thank you. Coming up next, we've got 10 lists. This is 2 of 10. So the third list coming up, we are going to do top 10 X Men covers. All right, so stay tuned for that. Um, We're gonna do top 10 X-Men covers. And yeah, thanks for watching as always. We've got Double Dragon coming up on Saturday. Hope you guys have a happy uh, and well, rested, festive, uh, all the superlatives for this Thanksgiving with your, you know, loved ones. And yeah, enjoy Thanksgiving and check us out on Saturday on a full turkey belly. And we'll see you in the next one. All right. Peace out. Good night, Miss So. Have a good one.